Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I have an incredibly shocking and nerve-wracking story for you. It's about trust, betrayal, and the lengths one man went to uncover the truth. Imagine discovering that the person you love most in the world might be hiding something so devastating that it could destroy your entire life together. Well, that's exactly what happened in today's story. So, sit back, relax, and prepare yourself for I caught my wife's affair with the butler, and it got worse when I fired him. 10 years into our marriage, I became very wealthy thanks to the percentage of ownership I had in my father's company. So, I bought my loyal and lovely wife a mansion for us to live in, which came with a butler who was prepared to take care of all the undesirable chores. My work schedule was pretty spontaneous because I could visit the office as I pleased or work from home. Our marriage and life together for the next 20 years after that were blissful other than some odd moments and occurrences. One day, I arrived home from work to find the butler with my wife, standing side by side doing dishes. She was drying, the easier part, but I didn't understand why she was willingly doing any of the chores and standing so close to him. Their elbows touched a few times, and I coughed to let them know I was there. My wife jumped, but he just moved away from her a little bit. She said she felt bad he was in here all by himself, so she wanted to keep him company and help a bit. She was so cheery and warm, I couldn't tell if she had any ill intentions. Another time, I came home to find her lounging in the pool with the butler gardening and staring at her. They laughed a few times before I came out to greet them. It was clear that they were at least friends, but I didn't like how friendly they were. I thought I was just being controlling and jealous, so I accepted that my wife was friends with and cared about the butler. What was the harm in that if I trusted my wife of 17-ish years at this point? We spent every moment I wasn't busy together. I loved her, and I could tell she loved me. Yet another odd occurrence was when I walked upstairs to find the butler closing our bedroom door. It had been hours since I was upstairs because my wife was still sleeping. It was odd, and I asked him if she called for him. He jumped when I spoke and turned around sheepishly, although I could tell he wanted to act normal. He stammered and said she called to ask him for some water. I accepted that for a moment, but reminded him that he was not to enter our bedroom or open the door. He didn't know what to say besides, "Yes, sir." He walked away quickly, and I opened the door to find my wife in her panties drinking water. I asked her if the butler saw her like that, and she said no. She just took off her robe again. I was skeptical. I was heavily considering hiring a new butler. It seemed like she was flirty with him, at least, and I didn't like that he was most likely in our bedroom with my wife in her panties. Before I could terminate him, I saw him smelling my wife's panties. I know. It's really bad, really ballsy. I caught him on the security camera. I told him that was unacceptable and made my wife really uncomfortable. I didn't even tell her about it, but when I told him she was uncomfortable, he instantly looked like he didn't believe me. That ticked me off. I told him he was fired. I hired someone else, this time a female maid since I knew my wife was straight. I decided that even if I was jealous and protective, it was a smart decision. 1 week later, I arrived home to find the maid outside gardening. I went upstairs and found the butler I fired coming out of our bedroom once again, except this time he was dressed in regular, but still kind of formal, clothes. He looked at me like he was amused, but inconvenienced because I was there and saw him. I asked him what he was doing in my house again, and he told me my wife hired him for something else. He said it with such nerve. All I wanted to do was punch his smug face. I told him to leave and not to come back, no matter what my wife told him. As he walked away, I went into the bedroom and found my wife wearing a skimpy little nightgown. I asked her what was happening, and she looked nervous. She said I was home earlier today than the week before, and I told her she always knew my schedule was spontaneous and not to change the subject. She turned red and told me I was freaking out over nothing. I asked her why she couldn't explain why she was here in her skimpy nightgown after the butler I fired just came out of the room. She was pretty stunned and said she hired him back for things around the house the maid couldn't handle. I asked if one of those things was helping her with her personal plumbing and lubrication. Her jaw dropped, and she couldn't look me in the eye. Her cheeks must have been burning. They were so red. It looked like blood vessels in her face were showing up. It was crazy. Her face never turned that red in all the 30 years we were together. She finally said in a weak voice that if he did help her with that, it was nothing against me. I told her that it most definitely was against me because she belonged to me. We were life partners, and only I was permitted to help her with her plumbing and lubrication. She said she wouldn't ask him to help her again, and asked me not to worry about it anymore. I asked if that meant she was admitting to sleeping with him, and she was silent. She nodded yes very minimally, with her eyes watering. Then she started speaking really fast about how it didn't matter. She just considered it a job, nothing meaningful that would take away from our marriage, and she needed me to forget about it so that nothing changed between us. I told her this was most certainly going to change things between us, and it already took everything away from our marriage. I told her we were over, called her a name, and told her to get out of my home. I was extremely careful to get a postnup signed after I came into more money. It's not that I didn't trust my wife at the time, it was because my father and I were lawyers, which means I couldn't ever be made the fool. So my wife sorrowfully packed her bags. She had too many bags for someone with nowhere to go. The butler came to pick her up in the car he afforded with the paychecks I gave him. They stayed in a motel where the butler had been staying after I fired him. My wife had so many belongings, clothes, that she had to leave some of it behind, which I immediately told the maid to sell on eBay or keep for herself. They stayed in that motel as long as they could, but their money ran out without me signing the checks. They tried to contact me, individually, blaming each other for what occurred and asking me to take them back into the mansion. It was gratifying that they were turning on each other and failing to survive or do anything with their lives. Even to this day, my ex still tries to ask me for help and gives me some updated sob stories about where she is in life. It is not glamorous. It's far from what she was accustomed to with me. I've become something like Bruce Wayne in town, and I have no complaints. Even though her betrayal hurt, I knew from the moment I found out that I could recover from it. Not because of my money, but because I know what love is. And it wasn't that. Opie, I am sorry your wife couldn't see what a great life she had with you. I honestly feel like the attention and sexual tension she experienced with the butler was too much for her immature brain to handle. It was a man in close proximity to her that she shouldn't sleep with, no matter how much he would have been willing. He obviously paid her attention, and when their friendship developed, she couldn't keep her legs closed. I believe she was egotistical and materialistic, and didn't have the respect she should for her providing and loyal husband. What this type of woman needs to understand is that resisting temptation pays off in the end. No man should be able to convince them to disrespect themselves and their spouses by breaking their vows and trust. I'm not sure what happened in your wife's head, but we are all here for you to offer support. Now, let's get into our second story for today. One fateful day, when my wife went to work, she forgot her phone. I took the opportunity to check it and was appalled by what I found. I should have known what was going on because my wife, 25, was extremely excited about going to work suddenly. She said it was because she became in charge of a business task that she really enjoyed. It was something like designing different abstract images each day for a newsletter. I, 28, believed her. She was a good girl, and I was proud of her for earning us additional income for living expenses. The only other dead giveaway was that she didn't want to have sex as often, but then I knew why. It was because she was sexting with a coworker, sending pictures, and talking about the sex they had. It was disgusting. I drove to her work immediately. I backed up all the stuff for her phone, because although she wasn't getting it back, it was going to be deactivated. I brought it with me, and started by showing the receptionist, who I only met once before. Then I asked her if I could get a guest pass to go have lunch with my wife. She giggled and gave me one. She knew I was sarcastically infuriated, and this was gonna be a heck of a show. She followed me in, putting up a "be back in 5 minutes" sign that she scribbled out. Everyone looked up from their desks to see me. I must have looked determined and angry. I asked everyone to gather around, and they did. I said I had some news to share about somewhere they all knew well. They were all sparkly-eyed with gossip endorphins when they found out who I was talking about. People started looking around for AP and my wife. AP came out of the bathroom just then, and we all looked at him. I announced that there was a guy who had the audacity to sleep with my wife. Some of the co-workers started shouting out insults at him. Among these, he was called despicable. Just then, my wife's head peeked out of her office. When she saw everyone looking at her, she went back inside and shut the door. Now everyone knew what my wife and AP looked like naked. Some girls whispered that they knew something was going on between them. Coworkers took the time to print/draw signs that said slanderous insults and taped them on my wife's office door. I thanked them for their creativity and left, wondering where the boss was that allowed all this to happen. When my wife got back to the house, I already had the locks changed. She took the stuff I let her have to AP's house. They both quit their jobs that day and walked out shamefully. In our town, there was just one major employer for like half the population. So, when I shared with people the things my wife talked about and took pictures of, everyone in the area knew about it or saw it. It didn't take long for them to decide to move about 500 miles west. I couldn't have asked for a better outcome. Since she moved out of state, our divorce was made final through the mail. She didn't ask me for anything, thank God, but I would have been able to prove her infidelity anyway. She was done with me and the embarrassing past she was trying to forget. I felt the same way about her and couldn't be happier with the choice I made. Opie, I am sorry your wife behaved like an untrustworthy office cheater. It's hard to get as low as a person who cheats on their spouse while utilizing their trust to earn income for the family. What are they even working for if not to improve the life they have at home? If they honestly believe the person they start an affair with at work or anywhere is better than the spouse they have at home, they're wrong. The grass may seem greener on the other side. Finding a person with a new set of features, issues, habits, goals, and interests is completely unnecessary. It is only a shame when a marriage or union ends because one spouse thought they found better in someone else or just thought they could effortlessly manage two serious relationships. Really, the only grounds for divorce, the proper way to end a marriage, is when one person absolutely cannot or will not honestly communicate with the other person. Thank you for sharing this story. I appreciate your bravery and bold confrontation. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Take care. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with others who might need to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more. Welcome back, everyone. Today's story delves deep into the complexities of family dynamics, sibling rivalry, and the unexpected drama that can arise from something as seemingly innocent as a baby shower gift. Imagine being accused of favoring a friend over your own family, sparking intense emotions and harsh confrontations. This is the gripping tale of a woman caught between her estranged family and her chosen family, titled, "My Sister's Pregnancy Unveiled a Family Rift," when a baby shower gift turned into a family feud. Let's dive right in and uncover the truth behind the tension. I'm 31 and my sister's 24, female. She's coming to the end of her pregnancy, and I bought her a Docatot. It was on her registry, so not a random gift. It cost me £100. I'm child-free and currently single, so I guess I don't have many demands on my finances. I haven't been close to my sister until the last couple of years, partially because of the age gap and because my parents disowned me when I was in my first year of uni. I've had limited contact with my family since then. On the other hand, I'm very close to my best friend, Jay. She was there for me when I was disowned, and we've been close since we were 10. She has a toddler, and I think of him as my nephew. I admit that when I see nice clothes or toys, I buy them for him. Anyway, my sister was at my flat, and she saw clothes I bought for my nephew, Jay's son, and I guess she looked them up to see how much they cost. At dinner, she said, "Oh, the clothes you got my baby are so cute, but why did you buy H2?" I told her that they were for Jay's son, not yours, and she got really mad and said I value random friends instead of my family. The clothes were more expensive than her baby shower gift, which is why she's angry, I think. When she left, she got my mom onto me and my mother's saying that my sister and her son are my actual family. And while it's nice that I'm close to Jay, I should prioritize my actual relations. Am I the idiot here? Edit. I should add that Jay lives abroad now. There's nothing up with our relationship. I flew to visit her a few times a year and honestly, Mom has had an issue with that too. I think they feel like Jay's not my bio family. And physically, she's thousands of miles away. So I should focus on the people in front of me. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on just a minute. My mother says my sister and her son are my family. After your parents disown you, where does she get off using the real family line? If anything, Jay's more of a real family than your sister or mom. You're not the idiot. Agreed. Your mom is your relative. Jay is family. It's your money. Spend it however way you like. Sister wasn't even there for you when you were disowned. So personally, I take back the doc tot. And the people in front of you were the ones who disowned you while your friends supported you. So I don't think I'd be talking if I abandoned my daughter or my sibling. LOL. Focus on the people in front of you is for customer service, not relationships. Maintaining a relationship over distance is hard. You're merely showing that Jay is in your thoughts, even though they're miles away. Focus on the people who support you and love you. That's clearly not your sister or mom. It seemed to me when Opie went off to uni, Opie wasn't worthy of family as they disowned Opie during that first year. Now that Opie is successful and has money, they're all about, oh, Opie, you better prioritize us. Put us first. Spend all your money on us and screw your best friend. Is this a safe assumption, or am I out of line? I think you're spot on. You got her an expensive gift that she actually wanted. The fact that you buy gifts for your chosen nephew, I think, is lovely and super sweet. And it's your money to do what you want. Your sister's jealous and needs a reality check. Update. Is it relevant to know why they disown me? They don't like that I'm queer and non-binary. They try to use religion to justify it. Jay and her family are more religious than my parents. So my parents were pretty comfortable assuming that Jay's family would back. They didn't. They supported me, confronted my parents about their behavior and took me in afterward. And that's why my mom resents them. We were close as families. And I know Jay's parents argued on my behalf and that caused them to stop being friends. I do miss the closeness I had with mom when I was younger. So I've been trying to rebuild something between us. But yeah, maybe it's not to be. Mom has kind of apologized for the disownment in a wrong way. She now says that it was mainly my dad pushing her. I know that their disagreement about me is part of why they separated in the end. But yeah, Jay and her parents were there for me when I really felt alone. And I think of them as family. My sister and I live in different territories. She lives 4,000 kilometers south of here. So a 2-day drive or 4.5-hour flight away. We try to have a visit at least once a year. This time she brought her boyfriend to visit. I've never met him in person, only over a video call. She says they're thinking of living together. They stayed in my guest room. On the 6th day of their visit here, her boyfriend had a freak out on me because I was preparing a meal for us. And he saw that I had food in my kitchen that my sister was allergic to. I put allergic in quotes, because she isn't allergic to anything. Her boyfriend thought she was. She's told him that she has a deadly allergy to a certain food. She went so far as to purchase EpiPens and wear a medical bracelet. She's told him stories about almost dying from accidentally or unknowingly eating this food when we were kids. Her boyfriend was angry I had it in my kitchen and didn't clean my kitchen or cooking utensils before their visit, which I would have done if my sister was really allergic. But she isn't. She hates it, but she isn't allergic. And to me there's a big difference. If there was even a chance my sister was allergic, I wouldn't have it in my kitchen. I told her boyfriend that my sister hates it but is not allergic, that she's always hated the food. Now she's furious at me. Note that I had the food item she hates in my kitchen because I like it, but I wasn't putting it in any meal for my sister because I know she hates it. I'm not removing food from my house because she hates it. She's furious that I told him the truth. She argued with me. Her boyfriend argued with her. The last day and a half of their visit was awkward. From what I got from my sister, she told everyone she was allergic when she went to university, so she wouldn't have to eat it. I was already in university here, so I didn't know she was telling people this. Our parents were divorced and we lived with mom. Dad lives on the other side of the country, 3,700 kilometers away. We did see him, but mom was the one who did everything for us. Our relationship with dad is better since mom passed. But dad, his wife, and his sister would not know my sister had an allergy and would take her word for it. Her boyfriend has met them, as the three of them are my sister's only family besides me. Basically, my sister says I should have gone along with her lie and not told her boyfriend the truth. She says the difference between hating and being allergic is small, and I shouldn't have told him. She's furious at me. Was I wrong to tell him the truth? Edit. I'm not American. A trip to the hospital or seeing a doctor would not cost my sister any money. She wouldn't get a bill for it. Yes, we pay taxes, but we don't get billed directly by the hospital or doctor. Also, if she was really allergic, she could have gotten an EpiPen under the health care system. She didn't have one, so she had to buy them herself and pretend they were prescribed. Not the idiot. Faking an allergy is very dangerous because if she fakes a reaction, she's going to get a shot, which is going to result in a trip to the ER. She needs to grow up and own up. I'm not trying to be rude or condescending, but is your sister not all there mentally? I don't understand how she thinks it was okay to lie. I have a severe yellow jacket allergy, so if I get stung, I have to use an EpiPen and then go to the emergency room for supervision. It's very serious, and they prioritize me, so the idea of someone faking it and then getting unnecessary prioritization is disgusting to me. I'm glad you told him because who knows what would have happened if this lie had counted. Also, clearly, the sister doesn't know what the consequences are, as this lie could have snowballed into something worse, like the boyfriend bringing her into a hospital. And once the truth came out, not only did it waste everyone's time, but also money. I feel bad for the boyfriend because she betrayed his trust, and who knows how long it'll be till it's regained, if ever. I'm getting mixed opinions from this. My two kids are young teen and tween. I'm not gonna lie, we live a pretty frugal life, and all the extra money I make goes into their college accounts or fun weekends. My ex has them once a month, and he's the fun parent. Can't get his child payments in, but he's willing to do a surprise trip to Kennywood. It's frustrating, all right. I try not to say anything bad about him, but he's been pushing the narrative that without him and the money he gives me, we wouldn't have this home. It's false, and now the kids are saying, well, dad pays for this. My last straw was when the kids told me that dad pays for the home. So, I pulled up my budget spreadsheet, and it includes all the stuff that he pays for. So, child support, and he hasn't paid for the past 2 months. The kids were upset about being lied to, and the oldest girl got into an argument with him, since she called him to confirm. We got into an argument, and he called me a jerk. My friends are split on this, and I'm wondering if I went too far. Not the idiot. He doesn't look bad in their eyes because you exposed him. He looks bad because he lied to begin with, and because he created the situation that he lied about. To add to that, the kids deserve to know what they're dealing with, in case they ever need support from him in the future. My friend's ex is like this. He told the kids he was financing their mom's lifestyle, that she really wasn't actually working 2 jobs and was out partying. She showed the kids her pay stubs, checking account, and the stuff she has from courts, showing that their dad hasn't paid child support in over 2 years. The same situation happened because now they don't believe anything their dad has to say. X threatens to take her to court for parental alienation, but he can't afford it, due to his flashy new house and car, lol. So sorry. It's hard having sucky parents. I hate to see kids pulled into divorce and support drama, but they're old enough to know the truth. The truth can hurt sometimes, but the truth is in the facts. As for the back child support you're owed, court order for garnishment would be in order. And your friends that are split on this can kiss your butt. Maybe now he'll step up and pay what he needs to pay for his kids. I, 18 male, have a cousin, 20 male, who's on the chubbier side, about 200 pounds, 6 feet 0 inches. That's of course not morbidly obese or anything, by any means, but noticeably heavy. In that he takes after my dad's side, who tends to be heavy-set. I take more after my mom, who's very slim. And when I stopped growing at 16, I was 5 feet 10 inches, 135 pounds. Since then, I've taken up lifting, and through bulking and cutting, I'm now 165 pounds and 10-ish% of body fat. My family was visiting him, his sister, and his parents since I was out of school for the summer. I was discussing sports with his sister, and he jumped into the conversation by laughing and asking what I could know about athletics and athleticism when I was stuck thin and looked weak. This annoyed me because it isn't the first time he's brought up my weight. He had done so mostly before I gained 30 pounds of muscle. So, the idea that he's still calling me skinny annoyed me. So, I retorted that everybody must look skinny to a guy his size, and that it's funny that he says I look weak and small because despite how much he weighs, I can easily bench press him, and I guarantee he wouldn't be able to bench press small tiny little me. So, who's really weak? He got upset and complained to his parents about this, who are now demanding I apologize to him for bullying and humiliating him. I refuse to, and his sister's on my side since she agrees he's been taunting me for years, and I just returned the favor and did it better than he could. Am I the idiot? Hard to understand a 20-year-old running to mommy and daddy to tattle on big mean you. What classic bully behavior. He can dish it out, but can't take it back. You're not the idiot. LOL. Had a 50-something-year-old cousin run to his dad to complain about me. Infants and adult bodies, go figure. Opie's cousin must be getting a lot of flack for his weight from others to be so jealous of Opie. His sister must have been taking his abuse for years too. Don't apologize to bullies. His parents were among them. Everyone's the idiot here. Body shaming is body shaming, and it does go both ways. Your cousin shouldn't be commenting on your weight, and you shouldn't have been pushed to do it back. Sometimes people insult other people because of their own insecurities. My mother-in-law, for example, insults me and declares I'm a cleaning addict. Most people I know think I'm a bit chaotic, so she can feel better about her filthy house, but I won't go down to her level by telling her, I just don't want to live in the same filth as you do. I don't need to humiliate other people to feel better about me. I know why she insults me, and knowing that it comes from a state of nagging inferiority feelings is soothing enough. Every time she does, I smile because I know she already feels bad about herself. Opie, you both need to grow up and stop bullying each other. My sister-in-law, her husband, and her kid, teen, are staying with my husband and me for the next week because there's a family funeral and all hotels were booked out for the fest and concert. We have a big farmhouse, so it's not a big deal, but sister-in-law is very opinionated. My sister-in-law and my husband have different fathers. Her dad died from liver failure 10 years ago, and his death date just passed by not too long ago. He was a massive alcoholic, so my sister-in-law turned into a witch whenever she saw anyone drinking, especially people in her family. Well, my husband, who isn't a big drinker, went out with his friends last night as kind of a hurrah because we'll be welcoming our first daughter into the world in about a month, and he just wanted to celebrate his becoming a dad. I encouraged him to go. I arranged for his Uber back home, and he came in around 11 p.m. last night. He was intoxicated. He walked into the door singing Let's Stay Together by Al Green, dancing, spinning me around the living room floor in some very sloppy waltz, and laughing the whole time as he tripped all over himself. Now, my dad is an alcoholic too, so I get it, but honestly, I was having a blast with my intoxicated husband. Sister-in-law comes into the room and just starts laying into my husband about him drinking, screaming about how he would turn out just like dad, etc., etc. At this point, my husband's mood is dead. He's crying. I lost it. I told her, how can he turn out like a piece of crap when that piece of crap isn't his father? Get out of my house right now and never return. She immediately went quiet and said she couldn't just take her daughter out at this time of night and that no hotels had vacancies, and my husband knew better than to drink around her, and I told her, that's not my problem. Leave. The whole family's angry at my husband and me right now for both him drinking in front of sister-in-law and me kicking them out at midnight. Am I the idiot? Edit. I never said her daughter or her husband had to leave. I told her she had to. She woke them up and dragged them with her after she caused problems. Not the idiot. She interfered in your family life, insulted your husband, and didn't even apologize. She whines about no vacancy. I bet her voice felt a little hoarse after that. She needs to see a therapist. Her projecting anger onto other people when it's not warranted is a reflection of her unhealed trauma. It's also obvious he doesn't have a drinking problem and that he just had fun, responsibly. Sister-in-law was an idiot for having the unmitigated gall to try and dictate someone's behavior in their own house while they were doing her a favor. The nerve, the chutzpah, the barefaced cheek of her. I'd kick her out of my life so fast, the resulting tornado would sweep her and all her BS flying monkeys away with her. The only thing I would have done differently was tell her she needs to leave by the end of the next day. That way, she has time to figure out where she's gonna go. Not sure if this happens before or after the funeral and if she still needs a place to stay. Plus, she should check erms too. It's not just suck it up or put people in the street at midnight. I agree. Everyone's the idiot here. People always have their knives out to kill anyone and everyone. However, kicking someone out in the middle of the night was too much. If you know the difficulty finding accommodation and they were in your house for a difficult occasion, funeral, then you should have let her and her family spend the night. Saying you didn't ask her husband and kid to leave makes you more of an idiot, as everyone knows how illogical that would be. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. If this story resonated with you or sparked any thoughts, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking stories and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. And if you have a story of your own that you'd like to share, drop it in the comments or send it to us. We'd love to feature it in a future video. Thanks for watching and greetings, my dear viewers. Today, I invite you to delve into a tale of love shattered by betrayal, trust eroded by deception, and hearts torn asunder by infidelity. Join me as we explore the harrowing journey of a husband who uncovers his wife's unfaithfulness and the painful aftermath that follows. Welcome to Caught My Wife Cheating, unraveling the betrayal story of deception and heartbreak. She all but stopped messaging me during the day. And when she did, right, it was short things about dinner or other trivial items. She started going grocery shopping alone, needed her time. This is something we used to do together. She has always gone running after work and on weekends, but now with it getting too dark and cold, her running on the weekends have turned into 3 to 4 hour events. She moved out onto the couch saying I moved around too much and she couldn't sleep. The couch then became the guest bedroom. That's when I finally confronted her. She said that she was texting the other man because he had been open about his mental health issues. She has struggled with anxiety and depression for a while, but we had it under better control with counseling and medication. She even initially told me she was going to talk to him, and because I knew him, he goes to our church and is our insurance guy. I foolishly thought that would be okay. On November 14th, I asked her if she still loved me and she said yes, but she hasn't been happy for quite a while and it's been a difficult year and she wasn't sure if she wanted to work on the marriage or not. I told her that I noticed that she hid her phone. Anytime I came into the room, that's when she told me who the other man was. She said that they texted and met sometimes for lunch, but he was just a friend. She said it over and over. As I asked questions about him, I got angry and incredibly sad at the same time and told her that it ceased being just friends when she felt like she had to hide it from me. I asked if she talked about me to him. She said she did. I told her that her affair hurt almost as bad as if she had slept with him. Over the next few days, I just could not shake the feeling that there was more going on than she told me. It's difficult because she says she doesn't want to work on the marriage. I looked at phone records and they call each other first thing in the morning. And during most lunches, then again, as soon as she gets off work, the phone call started on October 10th. So at least a month. She doesn't text him because they use Signal and I don't have access to her phone. Plus it deletes the messages as soon as you send them. Anyway, I talked to her again on Sunday and she said that they only talk and hug. I don't believe her. Maybe it's because of the lies and the broken trust, but I just feel like more is going on than she is telling me. She's currently in the process of finding a new place to live. She was going to wait until January, but I told her last night that I wouldn't be her plan B and that if she was waiting to move out to spare my feelings, to not worry about that. She put a deposit on a place today during her lunch hour. In Virginia, we must be separated for 6 months before we can divorce. As soon as she moves into her new place, that will start the separation time. I've left messages with a couple of divorce attorneys this week, but because of the holiday, they're slow getting back to me. I think I want to split amicably if possible, but I also want to know how far she has taken it. I feel this need to know if it was just an emotional affair or if it was a physical affair. Does it really matter though? Do I push it where she doesn't want to work on our marriage or just let her go and move on with my life? We've been married for 18 years and luckily have no children. I just feel so lost right now, lightheaded and in a fog. I appreciate any advice. Second story is called Caught My Wife Cheating, Found Out 2 months ago. I've been lurking on this site for a month now and finally decided to post. Short story is that my wife and I have been married since 1994. And I found out about 2 months ago that she has been engaged in a physical affair with a friend of ours for about 6 months. We are both in our mid to late 40s, both in decent shape. And we have a son who has grown and on his own. I will start off by saying that I have not been happy in my marriage for a good 15 years or so. Around 2005, she had an affair with a coworker. I was devastated. I busted her. She did all the crying and hemming and hawing, promising never to cheat again. I kicked her out for a couple of months. And we went to a crappy marriage counselor who basically blamed me for all her bad choices, thinking I was at fault for it all. I sucked it up and we went on and basically buried the whole thing. She was relieved and seemed happy with me, but I kept my mouth shut and just lived with it because I thought that is what a man was supposed to do. Looking back, that year was the year my soul started dying. Now I am relieved, almost ecstatic. You all do not need to console me because I am not in pain. If anything, I am happy because now I can divorce my cheater and get out of this fake marriage without having to feel like the bad guy or that I am in the wrong. She has given me the reason I have needed for 15 years to finally escape without my friends and family making me out to be the villain. I can say with confidence that I have been a good husband to her all these years. Am I without any faults? No, of course not, but I have never done anything over the past 15 years to warrant this treatment. She knows full well that if she were caught again, then that would be it. Which leads me to believe this is an exit affair on her part. And she wants me to bust her. That is the feeling I get. Maybe I am wrong, but I have a hard time thinking she is that stupid to cheat again after what we went through before and expect me to forgive her again. So, over the past 2 months, I have gathered all the evidence I need to divorce her. I have not confronted her yet or had her served. I do want to eventually expose her to our friends and families in order to protect my own reputation. But I have some questions. 1. Should I wait until after the divorce is final to expose her to our families and the other guy's wife? If I expose now, word might get back to her employer, and I don't want her getting fired. I made the stupid mistake of marrying and living in a state where alimony is mandatory. So, if she gets fired, then I'm on the hook. She makes more than me. If she doesn't lose her job, I could ask for alimony, but I won't. 2. How do I tell my son? He was just 6 when she cheated the first time. And even though he couldn't understand at the time, he saw what it did to us. And I think he was affected by our separation. He will be pissed at her, but I don't know any reason why I should lie to him. 3. Should I ask her to move out or try to keep things amicable until the divorce goes through and just live together? I want to keep the house, and in my divorce petition, I state that I will buy out her share of the equity for. I want to start dating again soon. Is there anyone here who went through a divorce where you live with your spouse but dated other people? Or is it best to wait? Third story, caught my wife cheating. She is bipolar. Iguis. I really could use some advice. My wife is bipolar and has suffered lots of abuse growing up, including abuse by a family member and abuse by her abuser ex-boyfriend who is in jail. I am a private investigator and task force agent. And I missed all the signs. Long story short, We met online as she was unconsciously seeking for a white knight experience in helping abuse survivors and ended up falling for me within a month. And so did I. Due to COVID, our meeting in person got delayed for months. And after we married, I discovered she was an escort, sugar baby for 3 years. She started on it as to get back at her abusive boyfriend. And also because she was conditioned to be objectified since she was little. She basically stopped doing it around 4 months before we met in person. And we married 3 months after meeting many times. I was hurting because she disappeared. And now I know why she has cried, apologized, and says she feels lots of hate, shame, and disgust towards herself. I believe her. I went to the finish line and found all kinds of texts, emails, hard evidence on her emails, drives, and even some profiles she had at some sugar baby sites. Oh boy, I regret seeing some things. She was very sloppy and hiding stuff. And once I got access to one email, the Pandora box opened. She is a student. And before I supported her financially, she had no income and no prospect of getting a proper job. The lies and the denial, the way she gets defensive is really tough on me. I offered her financial help before we met, and she didn't accept it. So, as you can see, she is not after my money. Not that I have much. How do I avoid lashing out? Our relationship and arguments can get dicey in seconds as she is bipolar. And I'm what's known as quiet borderline personality disorder, in which I suffer all the pain and lash at myself, not at her. Not a great combo, but the love we have for each other is gigantic. It's been only 1 month since I found out and I already forgave her. But at the same time, I have not forgiven myself over not seeing the red flags. Now, I feel I have to be extra vigilant with her. And she has agreed to disclose all her communications with me as I have. And we basically don't leave any room for anyone to be meddling in our relationship. I want to trust her again, especially since it happened before the relationship was real. But, for me, it felt real since day one. She says she only did it once or twice a month to finance her studies. But I don't know. Most days I believe in her good nature and other days, I worry a cheater is always a cheater. I also feel that because it happened before our first kiss, I am being a bit oversensitive, but I was faithful for that whole year and I suffered intensely. Anytime I remember those days she disappeared, the pain comes back almost undiluted. It seems I'm on the final stages of grief. I've had a hard life and I get over stuff quick, but I still feel traumatized and with a little PTSD. What's the best way to disengage? When our arguments start, they go from 0 to 1,000 and 2 seconds. And then the blame game starts. When we are good is the best, but when we are arguing as hell, too intense, too much fire, and both of us get super hurt very quick if the other is not careful. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with others who might need to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more Hello, dear viewers. Today, I'll share the heartbreaking story of discovering my wife's infidelity after 7 years of marriage and the difficult decision I made to end it. Stay tuned to witness the emotional roller coaster and the lessons learned from this journey. It was a typical Wednesday evening when I returned home from work. The day had been long, and all I wanted was to kick back and relax with Sarah, my wife of 7 years. As I approached the front door, I heard hushed whispers coming from inside. The sound was barely audible, like secrets shared in the dead of night. My heart raced as I cautiously entered the house. The living room light was dim, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The soft murmurs grew louder as I moved closer, making me feel like an intruder in my own home. Dread settled in the pit of my stomach. The sight that greeted me in the living room stopped me in my tracks. There, on our cozy sofa, sat Sarah. But she wasn't alone. A man I had never seen before was locked in a passionate embrace with her. Their lips were inches apart, their eyes locked in a desperate longing. Time seemed to stand still as I took in the scene, my mind struggling to process what I was witnessing. They quickly separated, their faces filled with guilt and shock. Sarah's eyes, usually so warm and familiar, were now brimming with tears. The stranger, disheveled and clearly caught off guard, scrambled to gather his belongings. I couldn't speak. My voice had abandoned me, leaving me mute and helpless. Sarah, her cheeks flushed and her hair disarrayed, finally found her words. She stammered, trying to explain herself, but the words seemed to get lost in the air, leaving only the heavy silence between us. The stranger, in a desperate bid to escape this uncomfortable situation, hurriedly made a hasty exit. I watched as he disappeared through the front door, the sound of his hurried footsteps echoing in my ears. Sarah turned to me, her face a portrait of devastation. She began to sob uncontrollably, her tears staining the very couch on which she had betrayed our trust. Her pleas for forgiveness filled the room, a cacophony of remorse and desperation. I demanded to know who the man was and how long this had been going on. My voice, previously lost, had returned with a vengeance. Anger and confusion surged within me, pushing me to seek answers to the questions that were tearing my world apart. Sarah confessed that it had been happening for several months. Months. The word hung heavy in the air, a reminder of the countless lies and deceit that had festered beneath the surface of our marriage. The weight of those months crushed me, leaving me breathless and bewildered. As the tears streamed down Sarah's face, I couldn't help but wonder if there were others involved. Was this a one-time mistake, or had she been living a secret life, hidden from my view? The uncertainty gnawed at my soul, adding another layer of complexity to an already tangled web of emotions. In that moment, I faced a choice. A choice between forgiveness and vengeance, between rebuilding and tearing it all down. The future of our marriage hung in the balance, and my heart was torn between love and betrayal. My wife, Sarah, was locked in a passionate embrace with a man I had never seen before. My keys hit the table with a clatter as I stood there, frozen. It was like a scene out of a movie, one I never expected to play out in my own living room. They quickly separated, their faces filled with guilt and shock. Sarah's cheeks flushed crimson, her eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape route. The stranger, disheveled and clearly caught off guard, mumbled something unintelligible and began gathering his scattered belongings. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My heart pounded in my chest like a jackhammer, and a million thoughts raced through my mind. Who is this guy, and what the hell was he doing here with my wife? Sarah's eyes welled up with tears as she stammered to explain herself. Her voice quivered, barely audible over the ringing in my ears. I can explain, she managed to choke out, but her words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of betrayal. The stranger, in a desperate bid to escape this uncomfortable situation, hurriedly made a hasty exit. I watched him, my anger boiling just beneath the surface. He slinked out the door, and I knew that this was far from over. Turning my gaze back to Sarah, my voice trembled with a mixture of anger and sadness. Explain what, Sarah? I demanded, my hands balled into fists at my sides. Who is he, and how long has this been going on? Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she struggled to find the right words. It's complicated, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Please, just let me explain. I felt a tumultuous mix of emotions, anger, betrayal, confusion. My mind raced as I tried to make sense of it all. The room felt suffocating, the air heavy with tension. Sarah's explanations were a jumbled mess of half-truths and excuses. She spoke of loneliness, of feeling neglected, but her words couldn't justify what I had just witnessed. The man's presence in our home was a stark reminder that our marriage was far from perfect. As the minutes ticked by, Sarah's tears continued to fall, and my anger began to ebb, replaced by a deep sadness. It was clear that we were both victims of our own failures, our own inability to communicate and connect. But in that moment, with the stranger's presence still lingering in the air, forgiveness seemed like an impossible choice. Our marriage had been shaken to its core, and the path forward was uncertain. Hey there, if you're enjoying this content, please consider giving it a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button below. Your support helps us create more great videos like this one. Don't forget to also click the notification bell so you never miss an update from us. Thanks for watching. Sarah began to sob uncontrollably, her tears falling like a torrential rain. I stood there, watching her crumble, unable to ignore the raw pain in her eyes. But I needed answers, and they wouldn't come through her tears alone. I need to know, Sarah, I said, my voice firm. Who is he, and how long has this been going on? Her sobs continued, but she finally managed to speak between gasps for air. His name is David, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. And it's been happening for several months. My mind raced with questions about how I could have missed the signs. Sarah and I had been together for 7 years, and I thought I knew her better than anyone else. How had I been so blind to this? How had I failed to see the cracks in our marriage? Anger and betrayal swirled inside me, but beneath it all was a deep sense of hurt. I had trusted Sarah with my heart, and now it felt shattered. I took a step back, needing some distance to process everything. My gaze wandered around the room, landing on the family photos on the wall. There we were, smiling in each one, our love captured in frozen moments. How had it all come to this? Sarah's sobs continued to fill the room, a constant reminder of the pain we were both feeling. I turned back to her, my emotions a jumbled mess. Why, Sarah? I asked, my voice cracking with emotion. Why did you do this? She wiped her tears away with the back of her hand and tried to explain herself. I felt neglected, she began, her words hesitant. I thought you didn't care anymore, and David was there for me when I needed someone. I couldn't deny that our marriage had been strained lately. Work, stress, and the daily grind had taken their toll on us. But I never imagined it would lead to this. As I looked at Sarah, her mascara-streaked cheeks and red, swollen eyes, I realized that we were both victims of our own failures. We had let our relationship drift, and now we were paying the price. The room fell into a heavy silence, the weight of our shattered trust hanging in the air. The road ahead seemed uncertain, filled with anger, pain, and a profound sense of betrayal. I couldn't help but wonder if there were others involved. The thought gnawed at me like a persistent itch. Was David the only one, or were there more secrets hidden in the shadows of our marriage? The uncertainty clawed at my insides, making it hard to breathe. Sarah's pleas for another chance tugged at my heartstrings. As she stood there, her tear-stained face filled with regret, I couldn't help but remember the years of love and laughter we had shared. Our journey together had been filled with ups and downs, but I never thought it would come to this. I promise, I'll do anything to make it right, she whispered, her voice fragile, like a delicate glass about to shatter. I decided to ask her to leave for the night so I could think. It wasn't a decision I took lightly, but I needed space to clear my head, away from the suffocating atmosphere of our home. Sarah agreed, her eyes filled with resignation and a glimmer of hope. As the door closed behind her, I found myself alone in our once happy home. The silence was deafening, broken only by the faint echoes of her pleas for forgiveness. I couldn't escape the weight of the situation, no matter where I turned. I stayed up all night, wrestling with my emotions and doubts. Sleep eluded me as I replayed the scenes from earlier in the evening over and over in my mind. The anger, the betrayal, the heartache, they all swirled together in a maelstrom of confusion. The hours passed like an eternity, and as the first rays of dawn crept through the curtains, I felt a deep exhaustion wash over me. The decision I faced was one of the most significant in my life, and I couldn't make it lightly. With the new day came a sense of clarity. I knew I couldn't let anger and betrayal define the rest of my life. I needed to confront Sarah, to have an honest conversation about the state of our marriage and whether it could ever be rebuilt. The hours had ticked by, but the dawn brought with it the glimmer of a new beginning, a chance to make sense of the tangled mess our lives had become. It wouldn't be easy, but it was time to face the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The next morning, I couldn't shake off the heaviness in my chest. The sun pierced through the curtains, reminding me that life had to go on, even if it was in disarray. I knew I couldn't simply ignore what had happened the night before. It was time to face the truth, no matter how painful it might be. I began to investigate further, driven by a need for answers. It felt like a detective's job, a role I had never expected to play in my own life. I searched for evidence of her infidelity, my heart pounding with each discovery. Text messages and emails became my trail of breadcrumbs, leading me deeper into a world I never knew existed. The messages were hidden in plain sight, but their contents were a damning revelation. David's name appeared repeatedly, their words filled with a longing that cut me to the core. Each piece of evidence painted a more painful picture of her deception. The truth was uglier than I could have imagined, and the pit in my stomach deepened with every scroll of my phone's screen. I couldn't fathom how long this betrayal had been going on, but the evidence pointed to a history I had been oblivious to. Finally armed with undeniable proof, I couldn't avoid the confrontation any longer. I found Sarah sitting at the kitchen table, her eyes red and puffy from crying. She looked up as I approached, her face a mask of guilt and fear. I laid the evidence in front of her, each message and email a painful reminder of her betrayal. Her eyes welled up with fresh tears as she realized there was no denying it any longer. "Why, Sarah?" I asked, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and sorrow. "How could you do this to us?" She didn't have an answer, at least not one that could erase the pain she had caused. Her silence spoke volumes, and the weight of our shattered trust hung heavy in the air. As the tears streamed down her face, I knew that this confrontation was just the beginning of a long and painful journey. Our marriage had been irrevocably changed, and the road ahead was uncertain and fraught with challenges. But one thing was clear, I couldn't turn a blind eye to the truth any longer. Sarah swore that it was a mistake and that she wanted to make amends. Her voice trembled as she pleaded for forgiveness, her eyes locked onto mine as if trying to find a lifeline in my gaze. It was hard to ignore the turmoil in her, the regret for the choices that had brought us to this point. "I messed up, big time," she admitted, her words heavy with guilt. "But I love you, and I want to fix this, whatever it takes." I sat across from her, torn between the love I had for the woman who had been my partner for 7 years and the betrayal I couldn't shake off. The idea of rebuilding our marriage felt like an impossible mountain to climb, but there was still a glimmer of hope buried beneath the wreckage. Friends and family started to learn about our marital crisis. It was hard to keep such a deeply personal matter hidden. News of our troubles spread like wildfire, and soon, our closest confidants were offering their opinions and advice. Some urged me to give her a second chance, emphasizing the years we had invested in our relationship. They believed in forgiveness and the idea that love could conquer all, even the darkest of secrets. Others questioned if I had played a role in her actions. Doubts began to creep in, and I couldn't help but wonder if I had neglected our marriage without realizing it. Had I been too focused on work and other responsibilities? It was a painful self-examination, one that made me question my own shortcomings. The voices of those around me, well-intentioned as they were, only added to the confusion swirling inside my head. I felt like a ship adrift in a storm, and the decision I faced weighed heavily on my shoulders. Sarah's promises to change and make amends tugged at my heartstrings. It was impossible to forget the love we had shared, the memories we had built together. But the wounds were deep, and the scars would be a permanent reminder of the pain we had endured. As the days passed, I grappled with the choice before me, knowing that whatever decision I made would shape the rest of our lives. Our marriage hung in the balance, teetering on the edge of redemption or dissolution. And no matter which path I chose, there would be no going back to the way things were before. I felt torn between my love for Sarah and the betrayal I had endured. It was a battle raging within me, love clashing with the hurt and anger that had taken root. I wanted to believe that our love could conquer all, but the scars ran deep, and I couldn't ignore the pain that had been inflicted. Sarah suggested we attend couples therapy to work through our issues. It was a step she hoped would bridge the chasm that had opened between us. I could see the desperation in her eyes, the fear of losing the life we had built together. I agreed to give therapy a chance, hoping it would save our marriage. The first session was like stepping into the unknown, our problems laid bare for a stranger to dissect. The therapist's office was a safe haven, a place where we could lay our truths on the table without fear of judgment. The therapist delved into the deep-seated issues in our relationship. With each session, we peeled back the layers of our history, exposing the wounds we had both inflicted and endured. It was uncomfortable, like cleaning out an old, neglected wound, but it was necessary for healing. As the weeks passed, I struggled with trust and insecurity. The therapist's questions often felt like a magnifying glass, highlighting the doubts and fears that had festered within me. Sarah's attempts to rebuild our trust were met with resistance, and I couldn't help but wonder if the damage was irreversible. The ultimate decision of whether to forgive and rebuild or end the marriage weighed heavily on my mind. Therapy had brought us closer in some ways, but it had also unearthed uncomfortable truths. The love I felt for Sarah still existed, but it was tainted by the knowledge of her betrayal. In the end, the therapist's office became a battleground of emotions. Forgiveness seemed like an elusive goal, and the scars of betrayal ran deep. The decision loomed over us, a storm on the horizon, and I couldn't help but wonder if our love could weather the tempest or if it would be swept away by the winds of change. In the end, it all came down to one pivotal moment, a moment of reckoning that would define the course of our future. The weight of the therapist's words hung in the air as we sat in the small, dimly lit office. Forgiveness, the therapist said, is a choice. It's not about forgetting or condoning the past, but deciding if the love and the history you share are worth the effort to rebuild. I exchanged a glance with Sarah, both of us acutely aware that this was the crossroads we had been hurtling toward. The therapist's words echoed in our minds as we considered the path ahead. The weeks of therapy had been a roller coaster of emotions, forcing us to confront our deepest insecurities and wounds. We had unearthed the root causes of our issues, but the scars of betrayal still lingered. Trust, once shattered, was like a fragile vase glued back together it might hold, but the cracks would always be visible. Sarah's remorse had been palpable, her efforts to make amends sincere. The love we had shared for so long hadn't vanished, but it had been shaken to its core. The decision weighed on me like a boulder, and it was time to either lift it together or let it crush what remained of our marriage. "I want to try," Sarah said, her voice unwavering as she looked into my eyes. "I want to rebuild what we had, even if it takes a lifetime." The sincerity in her words cut through the doubts that had clouded my judgment. Maybe, just maybe, we could emerge from this crucible stronger than before. I nodded, my own resolve firming. "I want to try too," I admitted, my voice laced with vulnerability. "But know that it won't be easy, and it won't happen overnight." The therapist offered a reassuring smile, a beacon of hope in the storm. "It's a journey, not a destination," she said. "But with commitment, effort, and time, love can overcome even the most daunting of obstacles." As we left the therapist's office that day, we held each other's hands, our fingers interlocked with a promise of a fresh start. The future remained uncertain, and the scars would always remind us of the pain we had endured, but love had the power to heal, to rebuild, and to mend what had been broken. Our journey had just begun, and as we faced the horizon, we did so with hope and determination. The ultimate decision had been made: forgiveness and a second chance, but only time would reveal if our love could indeed weather the tempest and emerge stronger on the other side. If you find this story compelling, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more content.